Okay. So I think we'll just start by just standing up for a second and just not doing, this is what we started with last time, just doing a little stretch. You've just been sitting here for a bit. This isn't yoga, it's just to kind of stretch to the side, just break the energy, give a little bit of movement before we delve into the world of Sanskrit and yoga, what the connection is. And to the side again, and to the other side. Who was here? Who here was here at the session 2 days ago? Quite a few, okay, 25%, just working out what we're going to do today. And maybe we'll just kind of just go down and just bend the knees a little bit, like that. And then maybe come down and then go to the side. Oh, hi, how are you doing? Sissy, like that. There we go. Good. Any other movements you can just make, and then we'll come back to sit. Just put my socks on. Socks with stuff all over them. Okay, so this is, we're going to delve into the sounds of Sanskrit, the language of yoga, because the two are very intricately linked. For people, if I come a bit closer maybe if you can, because we might be making some sounds and it's kind of nice to feel close just for the people way at the corner. So I think today we're going to go straight into some sounds. I suppose the other day we did a long talk before the sounds, but we're going to start by diving straight into the 16 Matrika, which are the 16 divine mothers, which are the 16 vowels of the Sanskrit language. So we won't be going into detail at this point about the pronunciation. You just listen and repeat whatever you can, but these are the 16 sounds that measure out consciousness. They're the kind of 16 fields of awareness that can be created through the Sanskrit language. And usually when you engage, well, not usually, traditionally, when you engage with the Sanskrit language, you always start by bringing these 16 fields of awareness into the domain. And then we'll chant the 4 Mahavakyas, which are the 4 great Mahavakyas sayings. And these sum up the whole of the Veda. So does anyone know, just briefly, what the Veda is? Hi. Just in any words. The root, has anyone heard of the Veda? Okay, you've heard of the Veda, that's good. I'll take that just for the time, thanks. There's only one letter in the Sanskrit language that can be pronounced in 2 different ways. Every other letter, once you've learnt it, that's how you pronounce it, which is wonderful because it means that once you've learned the alphabet, you can actually pronounce any word in the Sanskrit language, apart from one letter. There was one exception, which is a V, which can be pronounced V or W, which is why you have Swami or Veda, which can be pronounced Veda or Weda. So if we say Veda, and we understand that English is the granddaughter of Sanskrit. So the mother of English is Latin, the mother of Latin is ancient Greek, the mother of ancient Greek is Sanskrit. So our language is directly linked to the Sanskrit language. So when we say Veda, and I tell you that the root of this word is vid, then it might remind us of an English word which is connected to this vid. Video, yeah, I see, which is wisdom. When you see, you're in wisdom. So wisdom comes from the Sanskrit root wid, as does the English word wit. So when you have wit, it usually comes from some field of wisdom. So this is what the Veda is. Veda is wisdom. It's this kind of huge ball of wisdom. And out of this wisdom came sounds which were an expression, a direct expression of this wisdom. And these sounds were in the Sanskrit language. And when we connect with these sounds, when we sound these sounds, it kind of takes us straight back into this domain of wisdom. And why should we be interested in the Veda if we're interested in yoga? Because yoga is a darshana. Yoga is one of the 6 darshana, and darshana comes from the root drush. You've probably all seen the word drishti, which is a gaze. So drush means I see. So a darshana is something which allows you to see. What does it allow you to see? It allows you to see the wisdom of the Veda. So the darshanas came about after the Veda, between, say, 500 BC and 500 AD. So you have these words, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, Mimamsa. Yoga and Sankhya come together. And they sprung out of the Veda. So if we're wanting to really connect with yoga, we need to understand that the purpose of yoga is to take us back down into this field of wisdom. And the way that we do that is through sound, through the Sanskrit sound, because all of the great compositions that tell us about yoga are composed in the Sanskrit language. So if we want to connect with these compositions, it's really helpful to feel and hear and sound this language, because reading a translation of a language in our own language will always feel somewhat flat compared to the experience of hearing and sounding it. And even just by hearing and sounding it, it can take us to where it needs to take us. We don't have to understand it in the mental domain, because this is working it's a spiritual language, the language of the Veda. So even if you translated likewise the Yoga Sutras or the Bhagavad Gita, if you translate word for word in a dictionary the meaning of any of these works, it will be wonderful, but it won't quite get you to where you're feeling you want to go. So then you get another translation, and then another one, and then before you know it, you've got 12 translations of the Yoga Sutras, but you've never actually sounded any of it in the Sanskrit language. And you're thinking, well, okay, well, one day when I've accessed enough of my mind, then I'll get it. But we can put all of those 12 English translations that we've got to one side, and we can just go straight into the direct experience of it by going into the Sanskrit language and hearing and feeling where it can take us. So we're going to start by acknowledging the Veda, by sounding the 4 Mahavakyas. So there are what came to be known as 4 Veda. There's a bigger teaching around that, but we'll say for now there are 4 Veda, and each Veda has a great saying that summarizes it. So we might have heard, for example, Tat Tvam Asi. That's one of the Mahavakyas. So after acknowledging the 16 divine mothers, the 16 vowels of the Sanskrit language, we'll then say the 4 Mahavakyas, so that we've acknowledged this realm of wisdom from which yoga came forth. So we're going to start by just taking a moment to close our eyes, if we feel comfortable doing this. And we're just going to bring our attention to the touch of the breath through the nostrils as it touches the area above the upper lip, below the nostrils. And see if we can connect with this very potent place in the human energetic system. So by focusing on this point, it actually opens up our awareness. We just try and see if we can get really specific in our ability to feel the touch and feel whether we can see whether it's stronger right now in the right or the left nostril, perhaps. Just noticing right now which one might have a stronger breath, a stronger touch. And then we'll bring our fingertips to the area of the heart. And we'll just relax our lower jaw and let it drop down. And we'll just make an audible exhale through our mouth. We'll just do a couple more of these in our own breath, in our own rhythm. And then we're going to acknowledge our first measure of consciousness, the first vowel sound that I would imagine almost every child that comes into this universe starts with some expression of an ah sound. So we're going to relax the lower jaw and just let a quiet low, I'll just make the sound first. We may all be in our own pitches, and this is fine, so we'll all just make a ah sound together. Breathing into the area of the heart, and one more ah. And just relaxing the fingertips back into the lap, and then listening and repeating after me. Ah, 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 e, 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 oo, 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 Shri, Shri, Sarasvatyai, Sarasvatyai, Namaha, Namaha, ah, 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 e, 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 oo, 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 Shri, Shri, Sarasvatyai, Sarasvatyai, Namaha, Namaha, ah, 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 e, e. e, u, I, o, ow, o, Shri, Shri, Sarasvatyai, Sarasvatyai, Namaha, Namaha. Aham, aham, Brahmasmi, Smi, aham, aham, Brahmasmi, Brahmasmi, Prajnanam, Prajnanam, Brahma, Brahma, Prajnanam, Prajnanam, Brahma, Brahma, Tattvam, Tattvam, Asi, Asi, Tattvam, Tattvam, Asi, Asi, I am Atma, I am Atma, Brahma, Brahma, I am Atma, I am Atma, Brahma, Brahma. Atha, Atha, Yoga, Yoga, Anushasanam, Anushasanam, Atha, Atha, Yoga, Yoga, Anushasanam, Anushasanam, Yoga, Yoga, Chitta, Chitta, Vritti, Vritti, Nirodha, Nirodha, Yoga, Yoga, Chitta, Chitta, Vritti, Vritti, Nirodha, Nirodha, Tada, Tada, Drashtuhu, Drashtuhu, Svarupe, Svarupe, Avasthanam, Avasthanam, Tada, Tada, Drashtuhu, Drashtuhu, Svarupe, Svarupe, Avasthanam, Avasthanam, Vritti, Vritti, Sarupyam, Sarupyam, Itaratra, Itaratra, Vritti, Vritti, Sarupyam, Sarupyam, Itaratra, Itaratra, Yama, Yama, Niyama, Niyama, Asana, Asana, Pranayama, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dharana, Dhyana, Dhyana, Samadhayaha, Samadhayaha, Ashtau, Ashtau, Angani, Angani, Yama, Yama, Niyama, Niyama, Asana, Asana, pranayama, pranayama, pratyahara, pratyahara, dharana, dharana, dhyana, dhyana, samadhayaha, samadhayaha, ashtau, ashtau, angani, angani, iti, iti, patanjala, patanjala, dvitiya, dvitiya, yoga, yoga, sutrani, sutrani. So just bringing your attention back to the area below the nostrils, above the upper lip. Just feeling the touch of the breath in this area. Just noticing if the nostril that was stronger before is still the same, or if it has changed in any way. Then just bringing your breath slightly deeper into the lower belly. Just making any slight movements and slowly opening your eyes, bringing your awareness back to the room around you. So we just went on a journey from the raw life-giving conscious element of the Sanskrit language, which is the vowel sounds. Without the vowels, we don't have a language. We just have nothing comes out. The consonants don't sound without a vowel. We need the vowel to bring words into a form that we can recognize. These can be equated to Purusha and Prakriti. The consonants of Prakriti, the raw form, and then the Purusha, the vowels, come and give life to it. This is acknowledged very beautifully in the language, in the City of the Gods, which is the name given to the Devanagari script. It's arranged in a very different way to the English script, in a way that you can very clearly see how a vowel gives life to a consonant and brings it into a form that we can see. That's the beauty of the Devanagari script. And so we went from a journey from those raw sounds into the Veda, which is the wisdom, which is the summary of the whole of the wisdom of this tradition. We're in the yoga, the World Yoga Festival, which is dedicated to this realm of yoga. All comes from the Veda. You've got all these wonderful Vedanta teachers, Advaita Vedanta teachers here at this festival. And then we went through into the Darshana. Darshana is a way of seeing. How do we see this Veda? The time passed, and then we needed another way to travel back into that Veda, and that's what yoga is in its essence. And we went straight to the heart of the yoga. We went to the Yoga Sutras, which are these 196 little aphorisms written by Patanjali, of which only 3 mention asana, which is what we might call asana or something like that, but asana means the seat of your being. Where are you situated in your being? It hasn't actually really got anything to do with the physical posture. At any moment we can investigate where we are seated in our being. But only 3 of the 196 sutras talk about asana. The rest is a whole other realm for us to investigate. And so we did the first 4, which are, in a way summarize the whole of the Yoga Sutras. And then we turn to one which I hope that some of you may recognize the words, which is the famous Ashtanga sequence that comes in the 2nd chapter. Did people recognize those words? They're like, I know these words. That's quite nice. But you may not have necessarily chanted them before. You might have read them in a book and maybe skipped over the Sanskrit because you didn't quite know how to pronounce it. And I think when you hear it and repeat it, hopefully did people find that it had a different effect than it might have done from reading it. Did people enjoy that? Was it a nice experience? Did anyone have anything specific that they wanted to share or anything from that particular experience? You don't have to, but...
My mouth has never worked so strange.
Yes, exactly. There's 5 Asya, they're called. We talked about this in the last session, so for those who are here again, I'm going to repeat things. I hope that's okay. There are 5 Asya in the Sanskrit language, which is 5 points of articulation, or 5 positions that we can be seated in, from which sound can come forth. And we only really have 2 of those in English, so there's 3 that we don't really have two we definitely don't have in the Sanskrit language. So one of those is this retroflex position where the tongue is pointed up towards the roof of the mouth, and the vowel in this position, we did it the other day, is where I'll make it for you. We start with the tongue relaxed down, and then I'm going to lift it up to this position. So I'll make the sound for you. Energy is going over the tip of the tongue, and it's actually creating heat in this area. And this sound actually invokes the element of fire. You might feel it has a very different quality to the open, expansive ah sound. So let's just sort of try that. We're going to make an ah and then lift the tongue up, and it goes right up to this point in the head. It's called the Murdya position. So we'll start from the ah together. We'll try it one more time and really bring all of your attention to the tip of the tongue. Feel the energy passing over the tip of the tongue. We'll try that one more time. Now we'll make the sound ah, just an open ah together. Let's just let the sound come forth, no effort. And now we'll make the sound with the tongue pointing up together. Could people feel that a different field of consciousness, a different field of awareness was being invoked between those 2 different sounds? Created a whole different resonance. And when we create a different resonance, we go to a different place in our being. This is why it's called an asya. Asya comes from the seed as, where do we sit? In sitting we discover the meaning of this word, which doesn't mean literally I'm sitting down. It means where am I seated in my being? And where we are seated in our being is a very important consideration when we come to engaging with these great works. The Mandukya Upanishad, which is the creme de la creme of all the Upanishads, and which talks about the sound Om, which is is Om, not Om. And it explains that there are four realms of, four places that we can be seated in our being, four ways of experiencing the world. We can experience the physical domain, so we can be awake with our senses reaching out, which is potentially what we're experiencing right now. However, this physical domain is intertwined and cannot be separated from the subtle, because as you are sitting here taking information in with your senses out, at the same time there's a link into your subtle realm. We're kind of constantly interfacing in and out of the two. There's some kind of translation of what's going on the external going in. So this is why, for example, the Gayatri mantra, Tat Savitur Varenyam, acknowledges, when we hear the sound, we understand that this is acknowledging the physical realm. There's no virama, there's no full stop between Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, which is the subtle realm, because the physical and the subtle cannot be separated. Our mind and our absorption of this moment is not a separate thing to our physical experience. They're completely intertwined. But having an awareness of this will inform the way that we engage and interact with the world around us. And this is what the Mandukya, it's a very, you could read it, it's only 12 lines long. So, some Upanishads are huge. So you could kind of superficially read it very quickly and say, well, that's easy, that's obvious. Yes, there's the physical, yes, there's the subtle, yes, there's the causal. Got that, next. I want something more than that. But this is the beauty of this teaching, is that it is as simple as that. It's as simple as noticing that really there is only the physical and the subtle. And then there is something that they call the causal, what we will call the causal, they call it prajna, which is something beyond, which we've all experienced. We've all stepped into this causal realm in meditation, in shavasana. The power of the causal realm is so strong that we may have only been touched by it so briefly in a class once, that suddenly the whole trajectory of our life got changed. We got touched by something, and then suddenly we find ourselves in a yoga teacher training camp, quitting our job, leaving our house, going off to India. When we hadn't, maybe 10 years before, or even 5 years before, the thought of that was just a completely impossible thought. And what has happened is we've touched into this prajna realm, which I didn't bring my book, but I just got it on here. We can see what the Mandukya Upanishad itself has to say about this prajna realm, because it's interesting for us to hear it. It's quite wonderful. I forgot to bring my own book. Here we go. Okay. So we'll chant it, so you can repeat after me. So it's very interesting that a lot of people ask me about, the difference between bhakti, kirtan, Vedic chanting, how to chant the Veda. Bhakti and kirtan tend to take a line or a few lines from the Veda and then set it to tabla and music, so there's a lyrical line to it. So traditional Vedic chanting, there are 4 Vedas, and each of the 4 Vedas has many branches, and each branch has its own specific way of chanting. So even though when I initially learnt Vedic chanting with a school in South India, Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandir, and they were like, this is the way, I afterwards found out that actually there are many ways of chanting the Veda, which is a little bit upsetting for our mind because we like to think there is just one way, but there isn't. But what is similar between them all, mostly, is that there will only be 3 tones in the majority, and then in one there's 6 tones. But the point is there are much fewer tones than you'll find in kirtan or bhajan. And also there will be no musical instrument accompanying it. Now, some of the Upanishads, and Mandukya included, which is the cream of all of them, have no svara markings. They have no ups and downs marked. So how do we reconcile this? Some of the main Upanishads have come down to us with no indication of when you should go up or down. And this is because it is explained in the Veda themselves that there is a way of chanting called ekashruti, which means one tone, which means literally just one tone. And Mandukya Upanishad, which is the cream of them all, suggests that this is the way to chant it. Now, what I have found in my own personal practice is that by getting rid of all the frills, all the melody, and just really honing down on the points of articulation in your mouth and the pure sound of the Sanskrit letters and sounds, the meditation that it then evokes is quite profound. So we're going to do this with the Mandukya because this is how it's come down to us without any indication of up or down. So you can experience this ekashruti, which initially can feel a little bit strange because, there's nothing really for the mind to catch on to, but that's kind of the point. So, actually, do you know what I'm actually just going to tell you the English of this, and we're going to chant the Sanskrit for the 4th realm. The Mandukya tells us that the causal realm is where one is asleep, which doesn't literally mean that you have to be asleep. You can have this while being awake in a meditative state, where you don't desire anything or behold any dream. In this field of dreamless sleep, one becomes undivided and undifferentiated mass of consciousness, consisting of bliss and feeding on bliss. His mouth is consciousness. So this is a realm that we have some intuition, we have some intuitive feeling for. But there's more than this, because the Mandukya Upanishad talks about 4 realms of being. So the 4th is called Turiya. So what is it? So we can be aware of being awake. We can be aware of being in our settled realm, in our mind. We may not be aware necessarily when we're in deep sleep or a very deep meditation, but we can be aware afterwards. We can be aware of the fact that we were in a very deep place. So what is that which joins them all? What is similar to all 3 of these experiences? Awareness itself. Who said that? Yeah. Awareness itself. And you might just think, and that is it. That is it. That's quite shocking, right? If you actually take that in, it's like, I can be aware of physical, whatever's going on in the physical, 5,000 million, 100 different things can be happening in the physical realm. That's what we tend to get caught up with. But actually, I'm either aware of that, or I'm aware of the subtle realm, or I'm aware that I've been in this deep bliss shavasana. There's something which pervades all 3 of those, which is called Turiya. And the Mandukya Upanishad tells us what this this is, and this is what we'll chant. And this Turiya is summed up by the sound Om. And this is what the Mandukya Upanishad is all about. What does Om mean? Om means, Turiya means awareness. It means that which pervades all of our experiences. And it goes further and tells us what it is. So you can repeat after me. Na anta. Na anta. And And I'm actually going to do a few ups and downs because I think it's easier for the ear. Having explained the ekashruti thing, I think that's for another time. So we'll do that again. Na anta, anta, prajnam, prajnam, na bahishya, na bahishya, prajnam, na yam, na abhayata, abhayata, prajnam, prajnam, na prajna, na prajna, na prajnana, na prajnana, ghanam, ghanam, na prajnam, na prajnam, na aprajnam. That which is the fourth quarter, which is Om, is neither aware of the inward consciousness, nor the outward turning consciousness, nor is it inward and outward consciousness, nor is it an undifferentiated mass of consciousness. And then it continues. Adrishtam, adrishtam, avyavaharyam, avyavaharyam, agrahyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, alakshanam, achintyam, achintyam, avyapadeshyam, avyapadesham, eka, ekam, pratyaya, pratyaya, saram, saram, prapancha, prapancha, upashamam, upashamam, shantam, shantam, shivam, shivam, advaitam, advaitam, chaturtham, chaturtham, manyante, manyante, sa atma, sa atma, sa vigneyaha, sa vigneyaha. It is that which is neither knowing nor unknowing, that is invisible, ineffable, intangible, devoid of characteristics, inconceivable, indefinable. Its sole essence is the consciousness of its own self, the coming to rest of all relative existence, utterly quiet, utterly peaceful and blissful. Without a second, this is the Atman, this is the self, and this is to be realized. So you can hear how, of course, those English words were very evocative, but I think perhaps they had more evocative power because we had sounded those Sanskrit words beforehand, which had helped to take us to that place. And it's like all poetry or music or great works of art, they kind of have this capacity to transcend the mind. That's what we're always trying to find, a way of getting past the mind. The language that we are brought up in is called the vernacular in English. It comes from the Latin and it means being tied to the hearth. So it's kind of like the slave's language. So the language which we, first of all, we come with no language, And then we love to be around a baby with that open, vast consciousness. And then the language comes in as our awareness gets closed in, as we get tied to our particular hearth, which is a very useful thing to happen, because we need to be tied to a hearth, because we do live in this physical world as well, and we need to be able to connect to our community. But eventually we realize that actually we're a slave. We're a slave to our language, which is what we're constantly listening to and hearing the music of and the sound of, always, constantly, in our dreams and in our thoughts. And we all know that every language makes our mind feel in a different way. So anyone who speaks a different language knows as soon as you speak another language, you literally become a different person. So we get trapped in this vernacular and think that this is who we are, because it's all we kind of know. This is how powerful sound is. We're trapped in this, most of us, but many of you maybe different language, but let's say our English box. And if we have a spiritual inclination to find out perhaps who we might be beyond that box, if we keep trying to penetrate these works through our vernacular box, it's going to be hard to break out, which is the wonder and the beauty of this Sanskrit language, that we don't need to understand. We don't need to filtrate it back into our box, because that's what it's not. It's not there to do that. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's not like, aha, now I get it. Of course, that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. We've all had those experiences of understanding through the mind, and something through the mind, and it has a relative satisfactory value. However, it never gives us that, what did it say, the full quenching of all ultimate experience. The coming to rest of all ultimate experience, all experience. That's, I think, at our essence, what we are wanting and what we're hoping to experience. And once we can see, it helps to give us some clarity. Okay, I'm wanting ultimate rest from this experience of life, but I'm trying to do it through my box. And it's unlikely, not I'm going to say never, but very unlikely for us to get that ultimate rest through this box. So there are these languages, Hebrew, Arabic, or other languages. It doesn't have to be just Sanskrit, but obviously we're in this tradition, so that's the one that we're the most interested in. The Sanskrit language, at its very essence, is there to awaken us to who we really are. So when we start sounding this language and engaging with us, it has this capacity to just kind of break straight through our box and take us to a different domain. I find that people who, usually my minimum workshop is 3 hours, because there's so much that we, have to go through, and not have to go through. There's so much to share. But in those workshops, when I do a proper sound, meditation with everyone, people who've never meditated before will just drip straight into meditation, because the mind has been given something to focus on, and the Sanskrit language, and if you don't do it, it just manages to just slip you straight over into that silent awareness. I told the story last time, but I think I should just tell it one more time, because I think for people who haven't heard it, it's useful to know about the story of the Sanskrit language and how it came into being, because it gives you another feel for this language. So misery, and in fact, if you go to the main tent, you'll see a beautiful, huge statue of Nataraja. This is the big one on the thing. It's the only statue they've got. This is the story of that statue. So that statue is the story of the origins of the Sanskrit language. And so misery had fallen upon mankind. Mankind were in a state of deep despair, and they didn't know how to proceed. So even the sages themselves didn't know what to do. So the sages went to find Lord Shiva, and they said, Lord Shiva, please help us. We don't know what to do, and we don't know how to proceed. So Lord Shiva said, I know what has happened. The demon called Apasmara, which is the demon of forgetting, has descended upon mankind and has made them forget who they truly are. So, being Lord Shiva, I'm going to assume the form of Nataraja, which is the king, the lord of the dance, and I'm going to dance the cosmic dance of creation on top of Apasmara. the demon of Apasmara. So if you go and look at the statue, you'll see that he's standing on a demon who's beneath him. And he dances the cosmic dance of creation while simultaneously destroying the demon of Apasmara. It's such a powerful image. And you'll see he's got 3 arms this way or this way, and 1 arm this way. And in one of his arms, he's got this little damaru drum, which is a drum shaped like an hourglass. Is that the right word? An egg glass, egg timer. And he's got fire all the way around him. So this dance creates these bright lights of fire all around him. And then there's a moment of silence. And this is the transcendent reality. This is the turiya, the fourth, the awareness that pervades everything. And in this awareness, he bangs his damaru drum. And he's mixing up the causal. This is the causal and the physical realm, which the Mandukya Upanishad talks about. And he bangs it, and out come, each time he bangs it, bang, ayun, roik, ayon, come the 42 sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet. So these sounds are the manifestation in sound of this creative, this dance of creation which Shiva does. And so these sounds take us to that place of simultaneously, that timeless place of simultaneously destroying the demon of forgetting, whilst also creating the whole of universe, while simultaneously being in that transcendental moment of silence. Because all 3 are happening at all times. In fact, we are already, the demon of Apasmara is already trampled with us. We just need to acknowledge it to be so. We don't actually have to kill it. It's already killed. We just need to remember. Just remember, bring that acknowledgement to us. So these sounds, known as the Maheshwara Sutras, so Shiva actually takes 3 names in this story. He's called Lord Shiva, he's called Nataraja, and then he's actually called Maheshwara, the great creative principle. So the sutras are called the Maheshwara Sutras, and they are the foundation, along with the Matrika, which were the 16 divine vows that we chanted at the beginning, of the whole of the Sanskrit language. And so I'll chant it for you so you can hear it, and I'll chant it twice, once slow and once quicker, so you can hear. These are the sounds that came out of Shiva's drum as he's standing there in his cosmic dance of creation. Hayavarata Lanna Nyamangananam Jabhainyam Gadadash Jabagadadash Kapachatata Chatatawa Kapayam Shashasar Hal Ayun Rika Ayong Ayaucha Hayavarata Lan Nyamangananam Jabhainya Gadadash Jabagadadash Kapachatata Chatatav Kapai Shashasar Hal Iti Maheshwarani Sutrani. So you can probably feel that there's a certain resonance to those letters. And they actually, if anyone studies Sankhya or knows anything about the 25 tattvas, each one of those sounds represents one of the building blocks of creation. So Nandikeshwara's commentary on these sutras explains how each one of these sounds is a different force which all come to give us the illusion of this created form in front of us. So by studying, by going into all of these different building blocks, it's kind of, this is the word for Sanskrit for grammar in Sanskrit is vyakarana, which means taking apart fully taking apart the parts. So if we're a watchmaker and we fully take apart a watch and we know what every single piece is, and then we put it back together again, whenever we look at a watch, it will have a different experience to us because we understand fully how that works. Same with a car or anything. So the purpose of Vyakarana is to break apart fully sound. If we understand the building blocks of what the vowels create, what the consonants create, when we then hear words, it will then have a very different effect, a very different feeling on our system. I gave an example last time of the word Krishna, which has got a dot underneath the R, the S and the N, which means that it's pronounced with the tongue pointing towards the roof of the mouth. Krishna. Try that. Krishna. So it's not pronounced Krishna. Let's try that. Krishna, which has got an I in it. There's no I. It's Krishna. Krishna. You can feel it's having a very different effect on our system. And if we understand further what the retroflex position, what this position of the tongue up does to us, again, it will further even deepen our understanding, our experience of Krishna. To show how this connects with the Yoga Sutras, just to sum up, the Yoga Sutras are split, they're called 4 padas. We just say, oh, there are 4 chapters in the Yoga Sutra. We just glibly translate all these Sanskrit words into English, and we say, oh, pada means chapter. Pada actually means many things, but it means a step or a movement. So padangushtasana is bring your hands to your feet. So if I take a step, if I take a movement from here to here, I will see this room in a different angle. I will have a different experience of this room. If I take a step here, I'll have a different experience. So the 4 padas of the Yoga Sutras are the 4 padas which relate to, and in the Mandukya Upanishad it actually uses the same word, the 4 padas, the physical, the subtle, the causal, and then the awareness that joins them all. So the Yoga Sutras, each pada is an expression from each one of these. The final chapter, Kaivalyam, which is the goal of yoga, which most people might think it's samadhi. Who thought it was samadhi? Samadhi is just an experience that's talked about in the 2nd chapter. The goal of yoga is Kaivalyam, which is the 4th chapter. Usually we get so stuck and heavy down with our English translation that no one ever actually gets past halfway through the 2nd chapter, but it's worth pursuing with the sound. The 4th chapter, the 4th pada, corresponds with the 4th pada of the Mandukya Upanishad, which is the pada that I read, that we sounded together, Turiya, that which is beyond, ineffable, intangible, unknowable, that thing that pervades it all. And so we can see how directly linked the Yoga Sutras are to this Veda tradition. It comes straight out of it. Kaivalyam comes from the root cave, which actually means in service. And kevala means alone, one. It doesn't mean alone in like boohoo alone, but in this aloneness. Now if there's one, then there is one, and then we are alone. There's only one awareness. And when we shift, people say, how do you wake up? Well, I've heard an answer to that, how do you go to sleep? If you had to explain to someone how you actually went to sleep, it would be a very hard thing to do. Or you kind of, well, if you put yourself in a bed and make it dark and shut the lights, then you just kind of let yourself merge into sleep consciousness. Well, it's exactly the same. We wake up. Usually you don't have to be, but if you put yourself in a meditative state and you've got a certain environment, and then you just kind of merge yourself with Turiya awareness. You have to, of course, have some idea what the goal is. You know, why am I doing my practice? I mean, is it just because I'm just in the habit, and if I don't do it, I feel bad? If we want to get to Timbuktu, we need to know when we're in Peru that we're actually trying to get to Timbuktu. what is the goal of our practice? Is the true goal to eliminate, to come to rest all of our experiential experience of the world and bring it to rest? If it is, it's good to hold that awareness with us when we do our practice. Actually, the purpose of my practice is to know what Turiya, what is this fourth pada, what is Kaivalyam, and we can just merge our, just kind of like going to sleep, we just kind of let ourselves merge with that awareness. And when you're merged with that awareness, you can only be in service, because there's only one thing which is in continual service to itself. We all know, we've all had experiences of being in service in many different ways, and we all know how wonderful it feels when actually you just serve something bigger than ourselves. This is the whole premise of, karma yoga, is that we serve a greater energy than ourselves. But when we know ourselves to actually be that energy, and that all there is service pouring through us, then we are merged with Kaivalyam, which is the fourth pada, which is Turiya, which is Om, which is what the sound Om is, which doesn't end with an M, it ends with an Anuswara, which is represented by a dot in Sanskrit. The way you write this letter is a dot, and this dot is symbolic of it's bindu, it's pure potential. So we start with this O, and then we come back, Om, and this sound is made through the nostrils. It's not a like an M. You can actually make an M sound through the nostrils. Just try kind of making a pure nasal sound. You can feel, and if you close your nose, you'll feel that it stops it. That proves it's pure nasal sound. So we're going to make this Om sound. I'm just going to make it, and as we make it, we come to the end, we just feel it coming through the nostrils, because this has a very different effect on our spine. When you finish with an M, it kind of just goes flat. When you end with this, coming into this area, it just goes straight down the spine into what's known as para, and it will change our experience of this sound. And this sound is matches exactly the resonance of Turiya. So if we want to know Kaivalyam, if we want to know Turiya, we make this sound and it will take us there, but we have to know how to make the sound correctly. So there is more to it than this, but we haven't got time. So for now we're just going to do an Om and just have the feeling of going into your nostril. And the actual real delving into this sound, I mean, this is the most cosmic sound of all sounds. There's got to be something to it, right? There's got to be something more than just Om, right? And so that's a longer thing, but for now we'll just have this awareness with us, and we'll just I'll make the sound first, and then you can do it after me. Om. Om. Good. And we really do not need to hold that final M, is only a half count. It's not an M, an Anuswara. So we just touch it. We just touch it subtly in our system, and it will do something. So the last sound is very short. So me first. Om. 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 That was very beautiful. Could you hear how beautiful that was? So I should let you leave and go to whatever your next thing is, probably breakfast. I'm leading an online Learn to Read the Devanagari script course on the 24th of September, but most of it will be sound and anecdotes, but you will be learning how to write this script. You can either be online or you can catch up. You don't have to actually be present. And I run in-person ones in Stroud and Exeter. So if you're interested in those, you can come and put your name down or just look at my website, Lucy Crisfield. If you want any more info, just let me know. Enjoy the rest of your day. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for coming.